Welcome to Eloqua Office Hours, our monthly session covering marketing automation insights and solutions. Quick note, today's session is being recorded and you'll receive the replay link via email tomorrow. We have two special offers to share at the end of today's session, so be sure to stick around. And finally, after we end, we'd appreciate your feedback through a brief survey to help us improve future sessions. All right, so let's get started. I'm Al Arceo. I'm an account director here at Forethought Marketing, and I'll be your host today. We have Richard Holder, the director of marketing here at Forethought, who will present. And Richard has been with 4TM for 6 years and was previously a director of marketing operations at Visa. If you have questions, and we hope that you do, please use the Q&A feature so that we can keep everything organized. And feel free to ask questions about today's topics or even suggest topics for future sessions. And with that introduction, let me turn the time over to Richard, who will kick off today's presentations. Take it away, Richard.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, we're discussing signature rules. A question that Emma asked, one of our previous attendees back in September. Signature rules might sound like a dry technical feature, but honestly, they're one of those things that you don't receive enough attention on and can genuinely impact your engagement metrics. Here's the basic idea. You want your emails to feel like they're coming from a real person, not a company. Signature rules make that happen automatically and at scale. But by the end of this session, you will be better prepared to set them up and know what to watch out for. So let's dig in. When someone receives an email from a recognizable person that they have a relationship with, rather than a generic company address, they tend to respond differently. It feels personal. It feels like someone who actually cares about reaching out to them, even if their brain tells them it's just automation. And the data backs this up. Research from 2025 indicates that a personalized email with the right sender can achieve a click-through rate up to 41% higher. That is not a small number. That's the kind of lift that matters to your bottom line. And here's the thing. This isn't hard to do. You don't need to have your team manually update signatures or send individual emails. Signature rules handle it automatically and at scale. So what does this look like in practice? The most common way to use signature rules is account-based. Each of your contacts has an assigned account executive. Some of your organizations use territories or geographic regions. They work the same way with signature rules. They're just matching on a different field. You can also do this by role. Your C-suite contacts might see emails from your VP of sales, and mid-market contacts might see account executives. So how does this work? The mechanics are straightforward. You've got a contact in your database. The contact has a key field. In our example, we're going to use assigned to make it very clear. In this field, there is an email address of their assigned account executive. Alternatively, it could be a region field or a job field, each of these on the contact record, each with a unique value that matches with a signature rule. You'll also set up Eloqua user accounts for each person who will be a sender, including their name, email address, and other details like reply to, and maybe even a photo if you want that in a signature layout. When your campaign runs, Eloqua checks the contact assigned to field or the field that you have in the rule, finds the matching Eloqua user account, and makes the email appear to come from that person. If you're setting up signature rules for the first time, I recommend proceeding in this order. This will just help you get organized and follow a natural series of steps, and you won't be going back and forth between these. We start with quality data because, and I can't stress this enough, if your contact data isn't clean, if the field that you're using to match your signature rule isn't accurate, everything breaks downstream. Next, create a list of Eloqua user accounts and add them to Eloqua. This is what will be used to the send from. The next step is creating the rule mapping sheet. Then create the rule. This is where you establish the connection between the email sender and the contact on the actual email itself on your canvas. And then you test and test to make sure everything is working well. Send a few emails to a small batch and ensure everything looks correct. And finally, you deploy your campaigns. From a timeline perspective, you're looking at a modest time investment, primarily spent on validating your data quality and preparing your user account information. Okay, now that you understand the big picture, and if you have questions, and I've not covered it in detail enough yet, I probably will, but just in case, feel free to use the Q&A button to ask a question. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Just like a building's foundation, your data quality will dictate how well your signature rules perform. Signature rules depend entirely on your contact data being accurate. If you're matching on the assigned to field or the account owner field or some other field that field has to be populated correctly for the contacts you're sending to. Here's what can happen. And I've seen this before. Someone builds a beautiful signature rule. They launch the campaign to 10,000 contacts, and then they realize that 2,000 of those contacts don't have an assignment, or they have an outdated one from 3 years ago. Now 2,000 emails are sent to the wrong person, or they default to a generic sender, which is probably just an executive and a general mailbox. Therefore, by taking action, audit your data, pull a report, check how many of your contacts have a valid value in the field you're going to use. If it's less than 80%, you're going to need to update that data first. Here's what to look for. Is the field populated? Is the data accurate? How is it maintained when reps change territories or leave? Are there duplicate entries or inconsistent values? If you encounter any of these issues, address them immediately. It's going to take some time, but it saves you from problems later. And just like many things in life, the preparation before you execute on the plan is often the most important step. And I clearly believe that data quality is right there. Also, one thing to keep in mind is that you also need to ensure your email infrastructure is stable before proceeding. You need to have all of your SPF records, your DKIM, your DMARC, all the things that you set up when you initially have your system, but you may not have checked in a while. It's a good idea to go back and check them again. Make it a regular habit. That's not really a signature rules thing, but it matters for deliverability. And if you're not sure, check with your deliverability team or get in touch with us, and we'd be glad to help you look into those issues. We've had customers recently who have come to us and said that they're having these issues, and it's some of these things that have snuck in that they're not taking care of that causes all kinds of problems for their emails. So double check. Trust but verify. All right, so the next step is we're going to set up the Eloqua user accounts. If you have a modest list of users, let's say 50 or less of people that are going to be listed as they send from, you may be able to manage these directly within Eloqua just by going into the user interface. But if you have hundreds or thousands of salespeople, you will want to create a user spreadsheet file. The easiest way is to export your existing user account information from Eloqua, add the new users for the signature rules, and update the data that's on there. You don't have to update them all. You will definitely need to have the from and other fields. And then if you're using signature layouts, which I mentioned before, we're not going to cover today, you'll want to do those fields. But the sender email, the send from, the reply to, and the display name you're going to want to have in the file. And as I mentioned, there are other fields that are used for signature layouts. Please let me know if you'd like us to explore signature layouts in a future office hours. We just didn't think we would have time today to get to that. So we can do that, and we'd be happy to. Add a row for every possible sender, such as your account executives, your team leads, other relevant personnel, and then import the users back into Eloqua. The next is to prepare your signature rule sheet, which includes an identifier for each contact that connects them to an Eloqua user account. It could be their email address in the assigned to field, a CRM ID as I've shown here, or a territory name. What matters is that that the matching exists and they're in the rule sheet and they're specified in the signature rule. Keep your signature rule sheet with your other key documents accessible to your entire team. This becomes your source of truth. When territories change, when people join, when people leave, you update this file and re-upload it. It's that simple. All right, so the next step, step 4, is you're going to actually create your signature rule. And this is where everything comes together. By this point, you've got your data clean, your Eloqua user accounts are created, your signature rule sheet is ready and complete, and then you're going to navigate over to assets, email setups. Then signature rules wouldn't be Eloqua if it wasn't several layers deep. And we're going to do a new rule. Pro tip. Give your rule a descriptive name that follows your naming standard. That way, the next person who needs to make updates, and that might not be for a while, so it might not be a person who's on your team right now, they will easily be able to find this. On the screen, as you can see here, pick a default sender. This is the Eloqua user account from which emails are sent if Eloqua can't find a match in your mapping file. And as I stressed before, you will need a default sender. You need a reachable mailbox, so this just can't be something that's empty. You want to make sure that if anything goes here, that someone is going to take care of them. Next, choose your key field. This is the contact field that will drive the match. In our example today, it's assigned to. And the other examples, it might be an ID or a territory. Then configure which email headers to personalize. I think by default, everyone's going to do sender display name and display address, and optionally reply to and reply to address if you want to go somewhere else. Finally, you upload your signature rule file under actions. You can see on the display here on the lower actions on the left. This is where you're going to upload. Eloqua will validate everything, make sure your Eloqua user accounts exist, and confirm your mappings. And then you're done with this step. One thing, after you save the rule, Eloqua needs to complete some processing. And this is going to take a few minutes normally, but it can take longer. So plan to have a delay between saving your new rule and using your new rule. Next comes testing. And I think this is pretty straightforward and obvious, but let me just cover the key points. Send out a small batch, 5, 10. Maybe use some sample data that gives you a range of values that will accurately test that your rule is working well. Verify that the from name matches your expectations. Confirm that replies are directed to the correct recipient. And of course, check how it renders in different email clients. Most of the time, everything works great. But as we've all learned, I don't think there's a single person who works in marketing operations that hasn't had that oops moment where they've sent a bad email out. You'll catch a typo at an email address or realize that an Eloqua user account is missing or some other problem with your email. It's better to see it now during testing than after it has reached several thousand people. Whatever needs fixing, fix. Then test And once you're happy, you're ready to deploy. And your final step is deployment. And this is, frankly, the easiest part of the whole process. You're in your campaign, you're setting up an email step. You look for the signature rule field and pick the rule from the drop down. That's it, you're done. Save and launch your campaign. When you send a campaign batch, Eloqua identifies the matching Eloqua user account from your rule and makes the email appear to come from that person. All automatic and all at scale with no new effort. Now, you've built your rules, they're working, and your emails are going out. And everything looks great. But as we all know, life happens. Uh, Teams change, someone in sales gets a promotion, a new account executive or a team of executive joins. Assignments will change. When that happens, you don't need to recreate the rule. You update your users and the signature rule sheet and upload those back into Eloqua. Review the current file, make any required changes. As I said, add anyone new, remove anyone who has left, and update the system. You want to be careful about deleting a rule if it's actively being used in campaigns. That breaks everything. And don't try to change the key field once you've started using the rule. That's a mess. But beyond that, maintenance is pretty hands-off. So, uh, here's what I want you to take away with you on signature rules. The framework is simple but critical. Audit your contact data, set up your Eloqua user accounts, prepare your signature rule sheet, create the rule and test it and deploy it. If you follow these steps, you'll have a working rule that improves engagement, and I would encourage you to measure those results to see if you're seeing the lift that we've seen as well. The 41% that we discussed earlier is real. That's what can happen when your emails feel personal instead of generic. Good luck. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that overview, Richard. Um, it's like chicken soup. It's always good. Um, Before we move on to the next section, let's see if we have any questions. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature to ask those questions so we can, again, keep everything organized. I did see one question that came in, which was, when you add new Eloqua user accounts, will this grant them access to the Eloqua system? That's a great question. Richard, you want to address that?
Yes, you are adding them as users in the system, but you don't need to give them access to Eloqua. They won't even need a login or anything like that. You're just adding them to the table that will be used to send out. So there's no impact. There's nothing else you need to do. So great question, though.
Great. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through, so I think I'm going to turn back the time over to you, Richard, for the final n8n demo on how to remove bulk export dependencies. So take it away.
All right. This is kind of exciting. I just mentioned this feature that I had done several office hours back, and I got a lot of questions about it. So here we are again, working with n8n. We love this tool. So here's our use case. You've got a contact field, and you've got a bunch of bulk export definitions that are preventing you from deleting that field. That's the use case that we started out with this particular tool. And so we wanted a way to go in and automatically remove all of those with a few steps and some supervision. So that's our use case. So what you're going to need to do is this flow you see here on the screen, and this is the n8n canvas. It's very similar to how it works in Eloqua. So we're going to set the field ID that we want to process, and then we're going to get the field details. This is really a check to make sure that the field that we have specified is the one that's being returned. And then we'll make a call to Eloqua to get the dependencies for that field. We'll filter the dependencies to only include the bulk export fields. And then we'll run through the list of records that need to be removed. So let me show you what that looks like in detail. So here, I've set the field to delete to 1001, and let me go back. I forgot one step. I want to show you this one. So this first one is to get all contact fields. So I'm just going to execute this. It's going to run the system, and it's just going to get a whole list of all the contact fields that you have in your system. Oop, we're going to have to start this again. Hang on. This happens if you leave your screen not running. Okay. There we go. That looks much better. So here's the list of fields in your system and the values that are in the database. So we're going to use the first field, which is email address. Of course, you would never remove this field. So this is just the one we're going to use for this scenario. So over here in my flow, I've set that value to 1001. And I'm going to use a feature in n8n, which I like, which allows you to step through to the next step in the flow. And I can see the next item, and I can see that there's the field to delete was set to the number. And then here is the contact field coming back again, and it's got the values here. And just this is just really a check to make sure that I'm using the correct field. Now I'm going to actually run the get dependencies on that. And we'll go here and we'll run it. And wow, you can see there are 967 dependency for this field. And here's all the list. Now you'll notice right away that there are more than just bulk export. It's got all the dependencies for this field. So obviously, if we want to just do the bulk export dependencies, we're going to want to filter for that. So we're going to do that. And this is the step where that does that. It's got a little piece of code here in JavaScript. Now, I'm going to mention this. I am not a coder, and I did not write this. I asked the AI to do it for me. I said, I want to filter the information here. I want the type field to equal bulk export and only include those records. And so you don't have to be a coder to use n8n. It does help in some places, but for this particular one, you don't have to. So I'm going to execute the step. And as you can see now, it's filtered it so only the items that are our bulk export are listed here. And then I'm going to return to my canvas because the next step would obviously be going through all of these and looping through. The reason we have to loop inside of n8n instead of just sending it all as one single API call is because there is no bulk API call that you can use to delete in batch. You have to go through the REST API and do each individual item. So this loop over item step makes that possible. So let me show this running. I'm going to execute my workflow from the beginning. You can see here it's getting the dependencies. It's got the 967. It's got the 263. And even before I can finish here, it's done. So that's very, very quick. Now, this is a simulation. So I'm not actually doing the API call. I put a little short wait step here, and it simulates, the pause there. Because we're using the REST API, each item is going to go out when I send it to the real flow, and I send it down here to this one. If I send it there, then it would go through each one of those. It would make the call, wait for the response, success or not, and then it would loop through all of those. And that's how it works. It's only going to take about 1 or 2 seconds per record. This particular flow, as designed, can do up to 1,000 records at a time. And that's just because I haven't put pagination or any of that kind of logic in here and pull everything if you have more than 1,000 records, but that's certainly possible. And that is this particular flow. Now, do we have any questions?
Yeah, let's pause briefly and just see if we do have any questions. Looks like one just came in, and it's from Morgan. Do you have a place we can reference how you set up each of your tiles in an n8n workflow? Would love to build this.
Absolutely. So my plan is to further document this um, and put notes on the page like I have here. And so you'll be able to take this without knowing much, and you'll be able to replicate this kind of experience in your system. Um, I also need to include information on how to authenticate. So we'll definitely take care of that there. So we're happy to assist you with that. Just it'll come out in the next week.
Great. If there are any other questions, now's the time to ask. But we have Richard on the hook here. I'll give it a few more minutes just to see if there's anything else that comes through, or a few more seconds. Oh, here's another question or response. Amazing. Looking forward to this documentation, and thank you so much. So not a question, but an accolade. So that's great. Great job, Richard. Obviously, folks are finding this interesting. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we can conclude. But before we go, a few housekeeping items here. As part of today's webinar, we're running a special free Eloqua Cloud app promotion, and you can go to forethoughtmarketing.com/free to learn more. But that's not all. A special thank you for attending live today. We have some marketing automation swag for you. The replay link will include a link to redeem your gift. And finally, after we close, you will see a short survey. Your feedback helps us improve future events. And on that note, our next office hours will be Thursday, November 20th. Registrations will open approximately 10 days before that date. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for attending.